Well, I don't see the point in waiting any longer. So let's bring her out. The star attraction, the one you came to see. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Miss Judy Gold.
So at last we left our hero. We were in Miami with 3 days with like Sophie Tucker, Rickles.
So what was Sophie Tucker like?
Just like if you ever saw her, she was larger than life.
Right.
Dirty.
Right.
Funny. A broad.
And she had a kid, right? And then she left the kid and...
I didn't know that.
Or she was from Connecticut, right? Or yeah.
I don't know, but she did a number. I mean, now she had to be in her late 60s at this point. More.
Right.
Huge. And her opening number, she came out on stage in a sequins cowboy suit.
Right.
Tight pants, white boots, white jacket, white hat, guns, and did a number, Bang Bang Lulu from Dallas.
Right.
And she, all sex, you know.
Right.
And you thought of it when you look at it, you say, I don't know. But she was amazing. She was a real pro.
Yeah.
And Rickles was down in this
I just
bar.
can't imagine him being mean.
He was an angry guy at that point. He really was.
How old was he?
I don't know. It was 1958.
58.
Right. I wasn't born yet. Thank you.
So, but he was drinking a lot then.
Right.
Yeah. And Sean, we went out and hit golf balls with Dick Shawn, came
Right.
back and had drinks with Rickles, and
Right.
then
Oh, my
had
God.
a snack with Sophie.
Yeah, that's what I used to do too. All right.
That's why I talk about Judy. I had a podcast with Judy.
And then you
then I had lunch.
Okay.
I thought this was about things that you were mad at.
I am. I'm going to get
well,
there.
we're not going to have any time. You're going to
Yes,
be
we
mad
are.
at me by the time we're
No, I'm
through.
not. Okay, this is what I need to. This is really what I love about you. So first of all, you wrote the what was the skit about the guy brings the wrong baby home?
That was the first Van Dyke show that Sam and I did.
So and you got a lot of shit for that.
No, not really. Before we did it,
Right.
the network was very concerned because this was in 1962.
Right. My year of my birth.
And
A new Jew comes into the world. All right, go ahead.
the civil rights movement, or the pot was just starting to
Right.
simmer, and it was not being received well. You know, there wasn't
Right.
a big thing at that point. So when we had our first, I don't like her. When I had my first child,
Right.
I was living in the Hollywood Hills.
This is with your which wife?
With my
First one.
Former wife.
former, I don't know.
Okay.
My
Ex.
my original wife.
Right.
There you
Okay.
go.
Anyway, so we're living in Hollywood Hills, and I'm very crazy about plans and stuff, as you know, Liza.
Yes.
We're always on time. We never
Right.
miss anything. So I timed the trip to the hospital on various roads at various times of the day,
Right.
and even at 2 a.m. I just
Right.
wanted to be sure what I had. So it actually happened at 3 a.m, and I was very confident, and I'm rushing to the hospital, and a block from the hospital I stopped for gas. I just didn't want to run out of gas.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, that's me. I'll do
Right.
that. There's a time where we were on a vacation and we changed planes in Puerto Rico.
Right.
And we were coming to New York. And we had the bags on the thing. And this thing in Puerto Rico is huge. And right about 10 feet from where we were, the belt went up a hill
Right.
and then disappeared for about an hour and came out again. And so somebody said, "Oh, I need my thing." So I bent over, and all of the tickets were in my pocket,
Right.
and they all fell out. guys started to climb up this
conveyor
thing,
belt.
and they thought, "There goes Bill.
Yeah.
Never see him again."
So you hung out with Farrah Fawcett.
Well, Farrah, we used to. You know the Billy Jack movies? Do you remember them? At all?
Wait. Oh, okay.
You
Go ahead.
jumped ahead
Sorry.
from the okay.
I know.
From
I jumped
what?
ahead from the "That's My Boy."
Oh
No,
yeah.
from
Well,
the
oh yeah.
Black
so,
Baby thing.
Yeah.
so what
Don't, that's not. You gave it away.
So
God damn it, Leonard.
So, at any rate, when my baby was born,
Right.
we kept getting the wrong flowers,
Right.
and stones, and I thought, Jesus, how do you know you got the right baby?
Right.
You know, and so told Carl that, and
Yeah.
he said, "I love it." It's the first show we ever wrote,
Right.
And the problem was, at the end, how do you prove it? There was no DNA
Right.
in use. I mean, we had
I'm
it.
sure it's happened a million times.
We never had,
Well,
you know.
yeah.
And the only way to do it was when the other couple came,
Right.
they had to be of a different ethnicity.
Right.
And Carl said, "I want them to be African American."
Right. Well, he didn't say African American.
I don't know what we were saying then. Black, I guess.
Yeah.
Negroes had
Yeah.
changed over
Yeah.
time. But anyway, we wanted to be an African American couple. And the network, they just couldn't believe he was even thinking of
Right.
that. He said, "No, they should be Asian or, or something,
Right.
or Indian or whatever." He said, "No, it's time to do this." Carl is the most amazing.
Carl Reiner. Yeah.
Carl Reiner is the most amazing, courageous, funny, sweet, honorable. Oh God, what a treat to
Yeah.
have him in my life as I have.
Do you still hang out with those guys? Him and Mel?
I
They
talk
have-
Mel, and he and Mel usually have dinner together,
Right.
and watch a movie at night at Carl's house. And their favorite movies are movies that have the line, "Secure the perimeter." they'll watch anything where you have to secure the perimeter.
I gotta remember.
And the other one is, "You better get a little rest." And so, I mean, they know the Bourne movies by heart at this
Right.
point. So anyway, Carl went to the network and he said, "No, it has to be a black couple." And they said, "Well, Carl, these people are going to come in the door and there's going to be a laugh. And it's too early in this movement
Right.
for a white couple to make fun of a black couple."
Right.
And Carl said, no, you got it wrong. It's the black couple that's making fun of the white couple.
Right.
And the guy said, "Well, we're certainly not ready for that." So Carl said, if you don't do it, I won't do the show anymore.
Wow.
And so they finally succumbed.
So the couple comes home with
Greg
a black.
Morris it was.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
So
They
anyway,
come home with a black baby.
well, the whole show is that Dick gets this suspicion because they
Right.
got some flowers that were wrong and everything,
Right.
and the baby didn't look like him. And
Right.
It was a hilarious show. I mean, it was wonderful. But at the end, he said, "You have to come over because you have our baby and we have yours, and let's do it before we get too attached." And so they're coming over, and
Right.
Laura, Mary, finds out, and she said, "There's no way this is not my baby." And it's funny or strange or interesting things that like you find funny
Right.
or funnier than anything, but than a joke.
Right.
I mean, there were so many great lines and great moments in that show, but my favorite has always been that when he's about to open the door and Dick and Mary is protecting
Her baby.
her baby, the little carriage, and she said, "There's no way anyone is taking my baby," and he just stood there and said, "Laura, I think it would be best if you went to your room." It's just the way he said
Right.
it was so great. And then they opened the door, and we didn't know what would happen,
Right.
really. We assumed, but we didn't know. And they came in, and there was a moment of silence. And I was standing next to Carl, and he said, "Oh, shit." And then a laugh started that didn't stop for about
Right.
20 minutes.
Wow.
Every time we got it under control and went back to pick up the shot,
Right.
they'd start again, and they'd start again. And it got funnier
there you
and
go.
funnier and funnier, and people started to realize the deeper
Right.
meaning of what was happening.
Right.
So that was the first Van Dyke.
Now-
How did you go from, like, it says here that you didn't get credit for writing 14 episodes of this show?
No. Oh, no. I think what happened is when we became story editors,
Yeah.
we rewrote a lot of stuff, but we never took credit.
Isn't that
But you got
detrimental to
paid.
your wallet?
Yeah, but we were part of the show. And
Right.
it was just Carl's way. I mean, a lot of shows that they'd have a writer come in and then they'd rewrite it and take credit for it or share the credit. And the Writers Guild would send it out for people to read and decide. And Carl just said, never. We had a show where a guy won the Writers Guild Award, and we had written the show. Carl and Sam and I had written
How
the show.
annoying is that?
And people would always send the final script as a sample of their writing.
Right.
You know, not the first script.
Exactly.
So,
Oh, wow.
did you know Mary Tyler Moore was going to be as huge?
Oh, God. She already was.
Yeah.
You know. She was amazing.
Oh,
I felt
loved
I
her.
was so in love with her, and we became very close when she moved to New York, because
Right.
I was the only person who she really knew as a friend.
right.
And I mean, everybody in the world wanted her to come here, come
Right.
there, do whatever. And it was so strange. I was walking down the street in Soho with her.
How long ago?
Oh, right when she first came
Right.
to New York. And I turned around, and it was, do you remember the E.F. Hutton commercial?
Yeah,
When
yes.
E.F. touched, everybody
When
listens.
W.F. Hutton talks.
Everybody
yeah, yeah.
listens, and everyone was frozen. And the whole block
Just stopped.
was just frozen.
Right.
It was like a motorboat had gone
Right,
through,
right.
and she was the wake. And
Right.
they were the wake of her.
Wow.
I
And
can't-
She was big.
So, how did you discover Marlo Thomas?
I didn't. Marlo Thomas had discovered herself long before
Right.
that.
I mean,
Marlo was a very successful young actress
Right.
in L.A. and worked.
Like theater actress?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And she worked and didn't want to be. You couldn't help but be Danny Thomas's daughter,
Right.
but she didn't want to get stuff because she was Danny Thomas's daughter. And she had been in a pilot at ABC in 1964 about 4 stewardesses who shared an apartment. And back then, that's what
women.
shows
yeah.
with women were. I
Right.
mean, the only stars of shows were like
Lucy.
yeah,
No.
well, that was a couple.
Yeah.
But Spring Byington, who was 80, she was the star of her show, and Beulah was the star of her show. But young women, there was no way that they were either a nurse, a
Teacher,
nanny, a
yeah.
teacher, or it's somebody's
Housewife,
daughter, like
yeah.
like on that one with the boat where she was the Gale.
Gilligan's Island?
No, it was a cruise ship, and she was the daughter of this. Not important. And anyway, Marlo had been in this pilot, and the pilot didn't sell, but Marlo had tested
Very well.
very well.
Right.
So they decided that they wanted to do a show with Marlo starring in it. And they gave her a bunch of scripts that they had and stuff. And Marlo was already a very independent. I mean, Marlo was not, she wasn't, there wasn't feminism at that point.
Right.
It was just, she was an independent, strong person.
Right.
And so she wanted to do something where the female was really the center and had a life, and that was
Right.
what the show was about. And that would affect young women and show
Right.
them there were other options in life than getting married or whatever.
That's great. When you pitched that show, did they laugh at you?
They
Or they
frowned.
wanted it,
They
right.
frowned.
Wait, but she found you, right? She asked you
no,
to do
well,
it.
what happened was, anyway, they gave her these shows, and she came back and said, she gave Ed Sherrick, who was the president of ABC at that time, she gave him a copy of The Female Mystique. And feminine Mystique.
God damn it, Bill.
I'm sorry. And he said, what's this? She said, read it and you'll see that I want to do a show because this is what's happening.
Right.
And credit to him, he read enough of it to realize that something was happening.
Right.
And he said, okay. He said, what'll the show be? And she said, well, I'm not sure, but she'll be an independent girl. She wants to be an actress. And he said, well, who are you going to get to write? He said, I'm going to get Bill Persky and Sam Denoff. Well, at that point, we were so hot. I mean, it was just like,
right.
I mean, doing the Van Dyke show, it was like you'd go to a party of people you didn't know, and you'd kind of stand there. People would finally say, what do you do? I write the Dick Van Dyke Show, and then for the rest of the night,
right.
you were the star of the evening. So anyway, we knew Marlo, and so she asked us to come to London, and she was in Barefoot in the Park, in a theater in London, and she was wonderful. So we said, okay. So we came up with the series, and then we went and had a meeting and told. Now the original title of the show was Miss Independence,
right?
Because that's what Danny called Marlo,
right?
And as we were going along, I said, you know, Miss Independence sounds like you won a contest or something. And so my parents had always referred to my sister as that girl. They were, because she was always driving them crazy on one level. You know what that girl did today? I can't believe that.
Right.
So I said, I think we should call it That Girl. And so we did an opening that showed 3 different people's idea of who that girl was. Her parents looking at her, and her agent looking, and then a guy in a restaurant says, where's my waitress? And the busboy says, that girl. And we pushed in on her, and her hat fell and stuff. And I said, we can't do it every week, but, you know, it sets up and God, it became the most popular open.
Bum, 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 bum,
It really changed the generation.
To love, and you'll be that girl too. Yeah. They don't write songs anymore like that.
It changed a generation.
Yeah.
It really did.
So That Girl, I mean, I fucking loved that show because it was a girl.
It was a girl
and
show,
she lived by herself. She had a boyfriend. They didn't live together, but, you know.
Yeah, there was, you know, it's so strange when Girls came on.
Right.
Which I was not a fan of.
The Lena Dunham?
Yeah.
Half Jewish.
I was not a fan. And the reason was that girl encouraged girls, and girls wallowed in their misery, you know, and it was, I didn't find it, and they said, well, there are a lot of girls like that. I said, well, God, I don't know them. I mean, I haven't seen them.
Well, you truly are. And now, you discovered Goldie Hawn, too.
Yes.
How did you discover her?
Well, I didn't discover. We were casting a show, and
Liza said you discovered.
Well, we did.
Yeah,
we did. But, I mean, she came into the office to read for the lead woman, the wife of the star. And when she came in,
what show was this?
It was called Good Morning World. It was about early morning disc jockeys.
Okay.
And this is before That Girl or after that?
Right before.
Okay.
Right.
And then she came in, and we knew that she wasn't right, but there was something about her that you knew you weren't going to let her out of the office. So she read the part, and she did it fine. She even brought a little teapot, because in the the girl pours tea. You know, she had this little baby's teapot or something she picked up at a store. And when she was finished, I said, well, you're really not right for the wife, but you're perfect for her next door neighbor, best friend. Mm-hmm. She said, well, I didn't see her in the script. And I said, until you came in, she wasn't in the script. So we rewrote it and made her.
And she was probably so excited.
She was amazing. And,
I love her.
You know, the show didn't last that long, but George Slaughter, who created
Laughing.
came to see her because he'd heard about her, and he picked her right up there.
Wow.
Now Farrah, who is Liza's idol,
Liza.
Liza has Farrah Fawcett underwear.
Really?
She really does.
Like, okay.
Well, on Rosie, when she was doing Rosie and Farrah was on, Rosie said, well, you're the big fan. And she brought in all kinds of Farrah Fawcett stuff.
Right.
She said, I even have Farrah Fawcett underwear on. And
Right.
and on air, Rosie said, Liza Persky has your underwear. Made her show her underwear. But at any rate, we were casting another pilot, and this beautiful young woman came in to read. And
How old was she?
I don't know. She must have been in her late 20s
Right.
at best.
Yeah.
And after it was over, the reading, I said, you've got this part. And she got all excited. She said, this is my first audition. I got the part. I said, yes, and you shouldn't take it.
You said that?
Yeah. And she said, why? I said, because you're going to be so much bigger than this part.
Right.
And you're going to be stuck with a contract.
Right.
And we're not going to let you out when everybody wants you, and you're going to end up hating me, and I don't need that. I said, so don't take the part. She said, well, I said, I'll tell you what, it's a Friday. You talk to your agent.
Right.
You tell him what I said, and you can, he'll call Monday and tell me.
Right.
So, of course, on Monday he called. He said, I appreciate what you did, and Farrah's going to pass on the part. And about a month later, she was one of Charlie's Angels.
That's unbelievable.
Oh, my God.
But you see,
And you became friends with her.
Oh, close friends. There's something about a star that you
Right.
just know it.
Right.
You're not going to let them out of your sight.
Right.
Same thing as Sarah Jessica Parker came
Right.
to read for me a long time ago.
Right.
Before all of this, and I said, you know what, you're going to be a lot bigger than this. You just know.
Right. Now, what did you think about the Smothers Brothers?
I love them.
Because I feel like we're in that situation now with, Stephen Colbert.
Oh, I thought you meant that Donald Trump was Tommy.
Oh, no. Yeah, I don't know. I love that show. Did you ever write anything for them?
No. Well, yes. The first thing they had on television was the Steve Allen show.
Right.
Them and Timmy Conway. That was his first
Oh, Tim, yes.
national television show. Funniest man in the world.
Oh, beyond.
Dick Van Dyke is the most amazing.
Right.
But Tim Conway is the funniest all-time person. So we wrote for the Smothers Brothers, and then they went on and got their show, and then they got very political. And a friend of mine, Ernie Chambers, was the producer of that show.
Mm-hmm.
And no, take that back.
All right.
It just seems we're all.
I know, right? I heard Ernie. I was like, oh, all right.
I should have said Ernest.
All right, sorry.
So. This has got to be a very boring thing for
No,
people.
listen.
No, you may enjoy it, but
Oh, just shut the fuck up. All right, let's go.
So anyway, they did their show,
I'm sorry,
and
Bill.
it was a particularly political time. I mean, there was a lot going on, the Vietnam War, and there was a lot going on. Today, there's a lot going on, but there's really one thing going on, and that's Donald Trump.
Right.
I mean, the insanity of where
he's
we
insane,
are.
But he's insane.
Yes. I don't know that he's insane. I think he's deeply troubled.
Right.
But the thing I hold most against Trump is I lost one of my favorite people because of him, because he voted for him. And
you can't.
It's just really hard to get with somebody.
I love that.
Who? What do you?
He lost a friend.
I mean, a guy I worked with and everything. And once this happened, I kind of didn't know
I
how
see
to,
what you mean.
Didn't know how to relate, because if you can't get together and say, "Do you believe what the fuck is happening?"
Exactly.
But I'm sorry. What Stephen Colbert. Most of the comedy now, political comedy, is snarky.
Right.
And in a way, the comics are doing the punchline to the straight line that is coming from the news, or you know what I mean? It's a different construct. In those days, they would create something that people might not have been aware of as going on in the Vietnam War or something, and then they would bring it to their attention and do a sketch on it or whatever it was. Now it's all out there, so it's what's your joke on it. I mean, really, most of the comedy is spoken tweets. If you reduce them to it, you know. Colbert has encapsulated it, and it made his show because he didn't know where he was going. I don't think he knew where he was going before this came.
Well, he was so entrenched in that other character.
Yeah,
and now
you didn't know who was who.
Yeah,
and I don't think he could get out of that. You know.
And now he's got
like an
target.
Angle.
He's got an angle.
Yeah, and he's right.
And of all those guys, I think Kimmel is the best.
Really?
The late night guys.
I think he's very smooth at what he does. Yeah, I think we know the head writer for that, Gary Greenberg. You know Gary.
You know, it's funny.
Gary Greenberg's the head writer?
Well, let me tell you something. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you knew him.
You know Gary?
Last night,
sweetest man.
Last night, I got a phone call, and he said, "Mr. Persky." I said, "Yeah," and I thought it was one of those.
Yeah.
Selling me something. He said, I don't know if you remember me, but this is Gary Greenberg. And you made such a difference in my life that I've always wanted to call and tell you.
This happened last night?
Last night, I swear to God.
What are the odds?
And I said, well, what? He said, well, I did a benefit thing for Carl Reiner. And after it was over, you came up and you talked to me for about a half hour and told me how good I was and that really stick with it and you're really good and you're gonna. And then the next day, I had told Carl how much I liked him, and then Carl called him, and he said those two phone calls changed my life. That's where I had the confidence to just go on. I said, well, what are you doing now? Is it all good? And he said, yeah, I'm on the Jimmy Kimmel show. I started, and now I'm the head writer. And so I said, well, it made me feel so good, and it's so funny that you know him.
Oh, my God, it's Bashert. It's Bashert.
And he really was sweet. Sweet.
Oh, he's
sweet
one
man.
of those
What do
nicest
you,
people in the business.
There's a couple other topics I really want to discuss. You wrote what? Go.
Well, I want to know how proud you are that girl that really was like the forefront to like women being strong on television.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Then led to like Mary Tyler Moore could be after that, and then Rhoda, and then it all kind of took off from that.
Yeah.
Right, and then you.
And it's also iconic to the fact that from her hairstyle and the fashion of the show, and then the whole 60s. So it really had a social impact.
Yeah. And then Kate and Allie.
Kate and Allie was...
Did you create that show?
No, a wonderful writer by the name of Sherry Coben had written a pilot called Two Mommies. And CBS was interested.
My kids have two mommies.
And they were interested in getting Susie St. James and Jane Curtin, who lived in New York. They wanted a show to come out of New York.
Right.
And so I was one of the few people who was in New York, and they said, would you do this, do the show? I said, yeah. I said, the way I direct is I rewrite. I mean, it becomes improvisational and stuff. And I said, I'm not in competition with the script, but it'll change. And, and I said to Sherry, I said, I'm respectful, but it's going to change a lot. And then Jane and Susan, I had lunch with them. And they were, Susie was fine, but Jane was very touch and go. Yeah, well, no, she was not sure she wanted to commit to this. She didn't know it would be funny. And all during the rehearsal for the first show, which was her first date, she was a single.
Right.
Her husband had left her for another woman, and she was a new Connecticut social woman, and she had no functions in life other than to dress up and feed. All her wardrobe was beige.
Right.
And or as she'd say, no, this is puce. And anyway, the first show was her first date. And the first date was the job that got Kelsey Grammer his
no way
Screen Actors card.
He was the first date?
He was the first date. And again, the minute you saw him, you said, this is going far.
Wow.
This guy is really great. So anyway, Jane had been very reticent and unsure. And then in the first scene, when it was over, after all the laughs, she said to Susie, I think this may work. She's brilliant.
Yeah.
Both of them. I mean, but Jane Curtin, I would love to meet her sometime.
Oh, she is.
She's like the greatest straight.
She's a sweetheart.
Yep.
Welcome to Play It, a new podcast network featuring radio and TV personalities talking business, sports, tech, entertainment, and more. Play it at play.it.
You're such a feminist.
I am.
I mean,
how did that happen?
Yeah, why don't you listen, Leonard?
Well, I pretty much was brought up by my mother because my father was away all the time. I had a sister, and my father's aunt, my father's sister lived with us. So I saw a lot of women around. And my father wasn't there for a lot of stuff that a man would do.
Right.
I mean, when I was 7 years old, we lived in a two-family house, and the landlord lived on the first floor, and nobody could pay the rent on time. This was 1938, and he came up, and he started to berate my mother, and I jumped on him, and we rolled down the stairs, and I was beating him up. Yeah, I was always the protector, And then, I just always liked women. I always thought they were strong and smart because my mother kept things together, man, when there was nothing to keep it together with. And my sister was always very special. I mean, she was a terrific lady. And I mean, today at 92, she's probably going to lunch somewhere today and going to a show tonight.
Where does she live? Here in the city?
She lives on 68th. And between Lexington, between 3rd and 2nd.
Oh, you're right by each other.
Very close.
Do you see each other all the time?
Yeah, but
Bunny and Bill.
I told her. I said the other day. She said we used to go to lunch all the time, and I said I have to admit something. When we went to lunch, it was obvious that I was probably your brother because we looked alike, and I was younger. I said, and now, when I'm on my cane and not walking, people think we're husband and wife, and I can't, and it bothers me.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, so you worked with Bill Cosby.
Briefly, yes.
Did you know what
wrote a special for him?
Were you aware of his?
Also a fan of women.
Yeah, he loves women. He loves women when they're sleeping, pretty much.
I tell you, when Bill Cosby started, there were women lined up.
Oh, I bet he was so handsome
at the door.
Yeah,
I mean, and to this day, in my mind, the thought of him, he certainly didn't need to do that.
Right.
So there was obviously some little flaw somewhere that manifested itself that way, but he didn't have to do that.
Right.
They were all over the place.
Yeah, and it's horrible. You I talked to your daughter Liza.
Yes.
And she said that you're sort of like me with the hating everything and hating everyone. I mean, but you seem not like that.
Well, I use the word hate.
Right.
Instead of drives me crazy.
Right.
Like, you want to know one of the things I hate? I ride the bus or the subway.
Right.
When you have a cane, you use the bus more because you can't do the stairs. Everybody, I mean, it looks like it looks. No matter what bus you got on in New York, it looks like the destination is Lourdes.
Right.
And the platform is
right. Yeah, and they're like.
And when I was on a walker, they started to put the platform on. I said, "Not yet."
Right.
I lift the thing up. But it drives me crazy people will be in the back of a 2-bus chain. They will walk to the front, get off in the front, holding up the people getting on, and then walk back to where they already were to go someplace. Why won't they go out the back door? They never do. And
I do.
Yeah, I do too. But I wonder if somehow it has to do with the back of the bus being...
The back of the bus?
Being the back, from segregation. And
oh, my God.
Well, I can't think of any other. There is no
They're idiots.
Logical reason.
They're dumb.
People are fucking idiots.
I mean, and they're saying use the rear door, and they just walk right up and do it. It drives me crazy.
So you lived in L.A., and then you moved to New York.
Hate L.A.
I know.
You hate L.A.?
Liza
Me
said,
too.
Yeah, I don't hate it. This is how I describe my L.A. thing. When people are like, do you hate LA? Well, first of all, I hate sitting in a fucking car all the time.
Yeah.
But this is how, when I had to move there for work, I remember it was ER had just started.
Right.
And I think LA Law was on or something like that. One of these shows that took place in LA. And I remember if I was in LA and I saw the opening, it was NYPD Blue. And I saw the opening of NYPD Blue, I'd get so depressed and like physically nauseous, like I was so homesick. But if I was in New York and I saw the opening of LA Law, I didn't care. That's how I.
Well, you know what?
God,
you know what Buddy Hackett said about L.A.
What?
He said you go to L.A. and you get a house and you sit by the pool and you have a dream, you have a drink. And then you fall asleep, and you wake up, and it's 20 years later. Now, I'm going to have to leave.
Why?
Because I have an appointment with a chiropractor, no less.
All right.
At 2:30.
All right. Wait 1 second. I have other questions.
Sure.
Okay. Number one.
Yes.
Fuck. What was that? Oh, she said that the day you left, you looked at yourself, and you realized you were...
Oh, yeah.
She who?
My daughter Liza, who is a friend. She's a producer.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to start with that. Your daughters are all in the business?
No, only one of them. They all started, but
one's an Emmy Award winner, correct?
Liza, yeah. She did Rosie.
And you know Liza.
Yes.
And
okay.
She did Rosie and Wendy Williams and a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so ask me.
And anyway, I was living in L.A. and I was already getting tired because everybody in L.A. has a monologue.
Right.
Okay.
And you go to a party and they update their monologue.
Right.
Guy hates his wife, does 4 I hate my wife jokes.
Right.
Guy, whatever it is. Pat McCormick, who was one of the great writers.
Yes.
He died of his monologue. Seriously. He was a drinker and a carouser and a wild man, and he died as a result of that. But that was his monologue. And so, it's like everybody said, oh, it's so beautiful, the flowers and everything. I said, you know what the vegetation looks like in L.A.? I said, look how God threw up. I said, there are plants next to one another that don't exist in nature within 3,000 miles of one another, So it's just so limited. And I also said, everybody's house belonged to somebody else.
Right.
First. I have the old so I said, in L.A., you ring the bell, and credits roll up. So anyway, I had a Mercedes convertible, an old one.
Right.
That I had bought and taken care of before they were hotshots, before people had forgiven the Nazis to the degree that they had. Uh-huh. And I also had a beard, which I loved because it had 2 gray spikes on it. And it was really cool. So I was driving, and there's a 5-way stop sign in front of the Beverly Hills Hotel. And I got there, and there were 4 other guys there. 2 of them were in Mercedes convertibles, and they had beards. And 2 of them were in Rolls Royces, and they had beards. And I looked around, and I said, I'm not them. I got to get out of here. And that was it.
Really?
Absolutely.
How old were the kids?
Well, let's see. It was 25 years ago.
Wow.
So they were in their early 20s.
Yeah. Wow.
That's great.
What really pisses you off? I mean, We could talk about Trump for an hour, but you have to go to the fucking chiropractor.
yeah.
Did you ever think in your lifetime someone could say the shit that he has said and become president of the United States?
The thing about it is, I say, he's going to eventually say something, and that's going to be it. And then every day he does, and it isn't it.
I know. What the fuck is that?
You can't write a character like that, can you?
And he has no respect for the office of the presidency.
Yeah. He doesn't understand it.
Well, he doesn't understand history, American history, the presidency.
But you know what? Whoever would, as a president, would refer to the head of another country as a smart cookie.
I know.
But the people who love him talk like that.
Right.
They understand smart cookies.
So you haven't talked to your friend at all?
Yeah, we've talked. I mean, and we're going to get together because I love him too much.
And is he in show business?
Yes.
And he voted for Trump?
Yeah.
Is he Jewish?
He was.
What does that mean?
He changed his religion. Not because of Trump, but because of factors, very serious factors in his life. I hate to leave you.
Who the fuck changes their religion because of factors? I know who it is. All right.
Fascinating.
What?
Now, I'm sure nobody listening to this enjoyed this as much as you did.
I loved it.
I love it.
You too.
Wait, you have,
We're such television fans.
Ask for people to let you know.
Yeah.
No, we love it. I want more.
We're in the business. We're fascinated.
Listen.
We could talk history of classic television.
Now
we have to come back so we can ask television questions.
We ask every guest this question because we promote mental health. But are you on, or have you ever been on any antidepressants?
Yes.
Yeah, I knew it. Yeah, I'm very. I'm very pro. I mean, I would be in a mental institution if I didn't have them, and that's why I want to normalize it. They're good.
Well,
what'd you do before the antidepressant? What do people do besides drink and?
I don't know. You survived,
right?
You know, and you just lived with it,
right?
And they're not miracles, but they do
definitely help.
They take an edge.
Who was somebody you worked with that really should have been on all that stuff?
Harry Crane.
Do we know Harry Crane?
Harry Crane was the most famous joke writer in Hollywood.
Really?
He wrote for Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis and everybody else. He was.
Wow.
He was. You know, and they referred to writers in L.A. The nicest guy in the world. He can't write his own name.
Right.
Or the most brilliant writer you ever saw. Don't turn your back on him.
Right.
Harry Crane was the most brilliant writer in the world. Don't turn your back on him.
Really?
He was so crafty. I loved him. I mean, I must say I loved him. But he was such a wily creature to get himself out in front. It was amazing.
Wow.
I had a good time here with you guys.
Thank you so much.
If you ever want me back, I'll come back.
Yeah, I want to come back and get, people can ask you whatever question they want.
You don't know anything about my life and the things that I have lived through.
Yeah, well, we'll ask.
Very intriguing.
Well, thanks a lot for bringing that up right now.
Now I'll just get my cane.
Oh, God. Wait, take your headset off.
I'll tell you an interesting thing about canes.
Yeah, move your mic up. Yeah, go ahead.
You find out a lot about other people when you have a cane. And one of the things you learn on a subway or bus
is that only women get up.
No. The only people who do not get up are white Caucasians between 15 and 25. Never has a kid in that age group never. Or Asian kids, African American kids, everybody gets up. I was on the subway, and there was this real jock sitting there with his headset on, and there was a woman with a baby sitting next to him and another lady with a lot of bags over there, and I'm swaying back and forth, and people are looking at him, you know. And I didn't care because most of the time I'd rather stand up because it's easier. And so at one point the announcement comes on and says, subway courtesy requires that you surrender your seat to someone who is elderly, someone who is infirmed or someone who is pregnant. And I said, 2 out of 3. He never moved.
Never got up?
Never moved.
Fuck him. I hate him.
Never moved.
Oh, my God. I love you, Bill Persky.
I love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you
Bill.
for being here.
That's fantastic.
This will be actually on a radio someplace?
No, it'll be on
podcast?
Yes.
Podcast?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll send you the info.
Okay. And if you ever should have the desire for me to come back,
Oh,
course.
please.
I will do it.
I'm
Can I
dying to
help
know
you
who
out?
the
I got it. No, I'm.
I'm dying to know who the person who changed his religion.
And I'll tell you off the air, but you can't.
Does he look like an insect?
No.
Oh. Bye, Bill.
Bye, Bill.
Guys.
You know what I love about old people? I gotta go.
And he gets up and leaves.
And just walks right out the door.
I like him.
He's fascinating.
Yeah.
He lived through. There's so many questions I didn't even get to. Like, I mean, he's worked with all these people.
I know.
We could just go. What do you think about him? What do you think? When
Right.
you went to the bathroom, I was asking him about Mel Brooks
What did he say?
and
Do we keep that?
or Woody Allen. I said, "Do you work with Woody?"
Yeah.
You know, he's like, "Well, he knew him, but he didn't really work with him."
Right.
So, but I mean, I could go. Dick Shawn, how brilliant was he? And
Right.
all the.
It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, and he created 2 incredible shows for women. Like,
I know.
so important.
Yeah, Kate and Allie.
Kate Nally's a monster hit.
That girl.
Yep. I wanted
mean,
to ask her. I got 20 questions about Susan St. James.
Oh, please.
How gorgeous was she?
I know. We got to.
Yeah, come on, we gotta have her
All right.
back.
All right. Well, thank you all.
This was great. Thanks. I'm glad I met
You're
him.
coming back.
All right, I'll ask Mr. Persky tons of questions.
Yeah, all right.
You got to put his daughter in context, when you start this stuff.
Oh, sorry. His daughter's Liza. Sorry. But I wanted to have the daughter and him on because she would have prompted him into like some really
Exactly.
Good,
And she's fascinating too.
I know. She's
Come
great.
on.
God damn it, people.
I give up. I'm leaving.
Fuck you. Listen, guys, thank you so much for listening. I love Bill. You know what? I love older people.
They're so fascinating.
they
You
have
get
so-
the history.
I know.
My next question was going to be like, compare Nixon, that era you lived through, to
my
this
God.
era. Hello. That's my first
Sorry.
question out of the gate next time for Bill Persky.
All right.
Let's write that down.
All right, let's
Okay.
write it down.
All right.
All right, thank you all for listening. And as we always say, so long!
And everything was wonderful. I'll see you soon. Thank you for the visit. So long.